Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever or wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Joining me for the next hour to break down this 9-game slate that we have ahead of us here tonight, our single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Yeah, not much of an assassin last night. I got assassinated, I think is the right term.
Yeah.
Early games went well. We were all backwards on the late games, though.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of what happened. Is I was sitting comfortably, maybe around 10 Eastern or so, and then I went through on a movie, watched that, checked some scores, and then I saw everything going downhill and just went to bed. Did not have a good night last night. I had a pretty good week up to this point, so I mean, one bad night's not really gonna kill me. But just because you and I didn't do well doesn't mean that some other people didn't do well. Our chat seemed to have a really good night last night. MP Goldberg jumped in the chat to drop the 20K, took first place in the $15 last night. Great stuff from MP Goldberg, taking down that 20K last night. Good job on that.
He's the only Islanders fan that I know. Like, legitimately, I live in the tri-state area. I don't know any Islanders fans. He's like legitimately the only Islanders fan that might actually be real. Okay,
well, I mean, maybe you have to branch out and find some more Islanders fans. Maybe that's
they don't exist.
Maybe that'll be your summer task, is like maybe assemble the Islanders fans in New Jersey. MP Goldberg could help you with that. M Skelett had a good night as well, took down second in the $12 single entry, also tied for second in the mini max as well. And then Dedro had a good night as well, finished second in the 20 max, the $4 20 max with Pitt 1, Islanders 2, and Scott Mayfield. Pitt 1, that Crosby empty net hat trick. That was the pivotal point of the entire slate. At that point, you either had Crosby or you were watching a movie.
Ridiculous bounce too. Like, it wasn't even like, oh yeah, bad turnover. Crosby had a clear path the empty net. It was just a silly bounce. Anyway, here we are.
I mean, that's hockey. It's you hate that it happens, but it's in a way you're kind of glad that it happens, because it shows it is a random game at times, and you do have to get lucky at times to be successful. But that's enough of last night's slate. Like I said, we do have a huge slate ahead to talk about. If you guys could, in the chat, throw us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a subscribe. It really helps us look good for our bosses. Only costs you a couple finger clicks and really helps us out. Click that bell if you want to get alerts when we do go live on the air. We have lots of shows coming up through the rest of the day, NFL, MMA, NBA, what have you. So if you want to get alerts for those shows, be sure to click the bell. And we have free premium tools and data up on the site today. We usually do almost every day, today being no exception. We have NBA player rankings. We have our NHL top stacks and our UFC pro plays as well. So whether you're playing NBA, NHL, or UFC, we have some free premium tools and data up on Awesemo.com to help you guys out. If I'm not mistaken, Josh's betting article was posted this morning, and my his UFC betting article, I should say, and my NHL power play stacks column also went up this morning. And those are all free. So whether you want to bet some MMA or just check out some of my NHL plays for tonight, head on over to Awesemo.com. Lots of free stuff up on the site. All right, we got a 9-game slate ahead of us tonight. There are a handful of teams on back-to-backs. The thing that really interests me about this slate is, like, the big four are on this one, right? McDavid, Matthews, McKinnon, Ovechkin. Those are, generally speaking, those are the core four guys that you can build around on any given night. Having all four of them on a slate is very interesting for ownership purposes, not only for how it dilutes their ownership, because obviously you can only roster so many $9,000 centers, but how it could dilute maybe the $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 lines on DraftKings and FanDuel, because all of a sudden, you're rostering Toronto 1, Colorado 1, Edmonton 1, what have you. You can't fit in those not quite filler stacks, which is why if you do look at our free NHL top stacks today, you'll see a bunch of the 10, 11, $12,000 lines all coming in 7, 8, 10% owned. It's because there are so many spots to choose from tonight, so many expensive spots. So on a slate like this, where you're a single entry guy, I know there are a lot of different factors that you might consider, but how do you honestly pick between, because all four places are relatively good spots, right? It's not like they're super tough matchups. I guess Calgary could count as a tough matchup. Maybe going into the Islanders the way they've been playing lately is a tough matchup, but they're not facing Tampa Bay. They're not facing a fully healthy Vegas. It's nothing like that. So how do you go about, if you're playing one lineup, just picking which of these star lines that you're gonna gravitate towards?
Well, the hardest part of that is deciding what you're going to do with Colorado 1, because they're by far the most expensive line on the slate. So what I like to do, I just like mess around with my lineups. I'll build with Colorado 1, see what I could fit in with them. And if something fits in too obviously, I'll go check the top stacks and be like, oh crap, they're the worst leverage spot of the night. But, you have to make the Colorado 1 decision. So if you decide to fade them, then you have okay, Toronto 1 is under 20K, under 19K. There really isn't, once you get past Colorado 1, the most expensive line in the night, I think, is Minnesota 1, honestly. So after that, you have more room to work with. Now, I think that's a general thought for a lot of people, and I think that's why we see, Colorado 1 coming in only at 15% in the 4.3 total. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people are like, oh, if I fade them, I'll have more options to put two better lines together. So I think, something you really have to consider on these slates is maybe I have to build with Colorado 1 and find one of these really lower owned spots that has upside. But again, I haven't started building yet. So maybe there isn't that line there. So you really, once you get past Colorado 1, then you have to consider Matthews and Marner. You have to consider Kucherov and Point. You got to consider Kaprizov and Hartman and Draisaitl and McDavid and Aho and Teravainen. And it's just the list goes on and on. So honestly, this is a great MME slate, and I don't feel bad for me because I've been doing it for so long. But if you're new to NHL DFS and you only build one lineup tonight, good luck, because you're going to have to make some ridiculous cuts.
Yeah, there's no way around it. It's going to be a difficult night. If you're only building 1, 2, 3 lineups, something like that, it's going to be a tough night of cuts, because you're going to be sitting there and you're going to be like, well, I don't have McDavid or Ovechkin in my lineup tonight. And when you have something like that, it never feels good. So one thing, just be aware of ownership with the secondary stacks. And as Josh said, just you kind of almost have to go with your gut, like what you targeted as your best play, and just kind of go with it, because you should get decent leverage on all the expensive lines. All right, that's enough for looking ahead to the slate. Let's get to the actual games. We have Carolina with a 3.5 implied goal total going into New Jersey. The Devils have a 2.6 implied goal total. I think Carolina's starting Antti Raanta. He wasn't dressed for last night's game. They put in Jack LaFontaine as the backup. Sometimes teams do that just to give the backup goalie a complete day off. Don't even bother showing up, to the dressing room or anything. So Raanta against John Gillies. I almost said Clark Gillies. RIP to Clark Gillies, New York Islanders legend, passed away last night. But John Gillies in net for New Jersey. That kind of changes things for me, because I think Gillies is a fair step down from Blackwood. Not that I think Mackenzie Blackwood is elite, but I think he's good. And going from good to bad is a difference in this NHL. What do you think about this game, Josh?
Yeah, it's really interesting because Carolina played last night. They ran over the Rangers. The Rangers without Igor are a lottery team. It's kind of funny to see the stark difference when Georgiev is starting to Igor. But Carolina is going to get overlooked tonight. There's no other way around it, because there's these massive stars with big totals, and you see it reflected in ownership right now. The top line for Carolina is coming in at 1.5%, 2%. John Gillies is, I don't even know if I want to call him an NHL goalie. You know what I mean? He's a career AHLer so far. So this is a really, really good matchup. And I think this is a really good spot to target in GPPs if you're building more than one line. In one lineup, imagine you'd have to fade Colorado, Toronto, Washington, Edmonton, all these spots just to Carolina. It would take giant bolas to do that. So, but this is a really, really good spot, and there's some really, really good leverage on Carolina tonight in the top 6. I think going to Nino, Trocheck, Svechnikov are fine. The Devils really haven't been great recently. They do still take a lot of penalties. Both teams take a lot of penalties, so this could be a special teams fest. So I think there's some merit to going to Carolina 1 or Carolina 2 tonight based off ownership, despite them playing back-to-back on the road. They have a huge total, so I think, Carolina 1 and 2 definitely in play. On the Devils side, it's interesting. Like, they're not getting much ownership either, but their total is 2.6 at home. And it's not like that top line is free. You know what I mean? Like, they're 10-5, 15-3, coming in at like 2% in a pretty tough matchup. Ranta hasn't been great this season. I just don't know like how much Devils I'm going to get to tonight. In 1 to 3, they're probably going to be a fade. In MMA, if you want to play some of that Hughes line, I think that's fine. Like, Hughes has looked pretty good recently, especially with Bratt and Sharon Govich. Their numbers together are good. If you want a little bit of Nico Hischier, Zaka, Tatar, like, it just isn't a great matchup. So for their price, I think there's other lines around the price that I'd rather play.
Yeah, I kind of do like New Jersey 1. I get what you're saying about price. About the price is kind of an awkward price for them. I agree with that. The thing about New Jersey 1 is they're super high event. Like, they're generating a lot of shot attempts, scoring chances. 82 shot attempts per 60 minutes, 41 scoring chances per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. They are blowing the doors off the opposition. And if you look at Carolina 1, they're very high pace as well. Like, assuming the Hughes line isn't going to be matched up against Carolina 1. They're just going to see them from time to time. They're going to see more of the second and third lines. But the Hughes line has just been super high event regardless of the matchup. So I think the way I would attack this game is either I would take the Hughes line, Hughes, Sharon, Govich, and Brad, or I would take who the Hughes line is going up against, and that would be Carolina 2. So Trocheck, Svechnikov, Niederreiter. I think that's the way I'm approaching this game, is that the Hughes line just likes to play so fast that, yeah, they could score 2-3 goals here today, but they could also give it up at the other end because they do give up so much going the other way. So Hughes line, Trocheck line, that's what I like out of this game. On the blue line, Damon Severson, PP1 for New Jersey. And we should also mention with no Ty Smith, and no Dougie Hamilton, you got to think Severson plays a hefty amount of minutes here. So I like him at 3,800. Anybody else in this game?
Not really. I mean, I guess you could play Tony DeAngelo in your Carolina stacks. Like, I know he had a really good game yesterday, and maybe we can one off him. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if I want to one off Tony DeAngelo, but I think including him in your Carolina stacks is fine.
Yep. Want to get to a super chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, Sammy Telesco. $5 super chat. We appreciate that. Says I need a cheap netminder for the slate. I wrote up Mackenzie Blackwood this morning. That was before we got confirmation about John Gillies. I would say I would still go with John Gillies. Like, I don't really like him as a goalie, but when I look at the rest of the super cheap goalies, it's Vejmelka going into New York or Primo going into Colorado. Like, there aren't really a lot of great cheap goalie spots. I guess Vejmelka could be fine. I'd rather just, if John Gillies can face 40 shots and give up 3, something like that, I think that can work out just fine. So John Gillies is probably my super cheap netminder of the day.
James Reimer against Tampa, but there's always shot volume concerns with Tampa. I know
That's
they had.
I hate playing goalies against
So
Tampa.
I
I think you're drawing to a shutout against Tampa, literally.
Thomas Greiss maybe, but that's just horrifying as well.
I don't even think Greiss is playing. They said Ned's on a back-to-back.
So I mean, you're not going to be comfortable with anybody. I played Dikembe Montembeau the other night, and that was just a ride and a half. But if you want to play Primo, he's going to get the shot volume. He just he might let in 7, but that's the risk you play with these cheap guys.
That's the problem. Is I don't know. Maybe Carolina hangs a 6th spot here tonight. I don't really see it, which is kind of why I'm leaning towards Gillies. But just be aware, it's not a good night for super cheap goalies here. It's actually a night where I might see myself paying up, at least going to the 7,500 range. All right, we got to get this moving along. Let's get to this next game. One of the cheap goalies is in this game. Arizona, 2.0 implied goal total. They're going into New York to face the Rangers. Rangers have a 3.4 implied goal total. I really hope New York wins this game because they saved Igor Shesterkin for this start for whatever reason. Jacob Chikrin's still not playing a whole lot of minutes since he's returned from his injury. Maybe he's not all the way back. I thought they'd be showcasing him for a trade by now, but they're really not. I don't know. I don't think there's anything I want to play on the Arizona side. Do you see anything there with a 2.0 total going up against Shesterkin? On road back-to-back, mind you?
Not really. I want to get behind the Rangers, like, because I'm a Rangers fan, but they're so bad 5-on-5. They're reliant on scoring on the power play, and this is a really good power play spot. So I guess you can play Strome Panarin, you can play Mika Kreider, just flat out power play stack. The problem is it's a pricing thing. Do you really want to be playing the Rangers, who are terrible 5-on-5 on a back-to-back, or you want to play someone like Nashville 1 and who's a high event line going up against a team that's on a back-to-back on the road that just gave up 5 goals to the Stars, who are just running hotter than the sun right now. But I don't know. I think, playing some Rangers does make some sense. In 1 to 3, I just don't know if I'm going to get there. It's hard to despite how good of a matchup it is, it's just hard to trust them. So, I mean, if you want a power play stack, I think that is a way to go in MME. But other than that, I'm just not super interested in this game besides maybe Igor. But again, paying up 8,400 on DraftKings for Igor against a team with the 2 total, the shutout upside's there. But if he lets one in, I don't know if he's going to be on the GPP winning lineup.
That's the problem with Shesterkin, right? Is you do need that shutout really to hit value. It's the reverse Reimer problem against Tampa Bay. It's the shot. I mean, it's the same problem, but for a different reason. It's that Tampa Bay scores way more goals than they do take shots relative to the rest of the league. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm playing Shesterkin here either. The Arizona penalty kill is bad, and they're taking a lot of time, a lot of penalties. So it's some sort of power play stack, I think, is the way you got to go with the Rangers here. Whether it's the top line plus Fox or the second line plus Fox or just Kreider Zibanejad plus Fox or Strome, Panarin, Zibanejad, and without Fox. I think it's got to be a power play stack here with how bad the Arizona penalty kill is. I was looking at our ownership, and once again, our top stacks are free up on the site today. The top line isn't really coming in with much ownership. We have them as 9% top 2 stack at 10.5% ownership. I don't know. That seems perfectly reasonable to me at home against Arizona. Bad penalty kill. It's not like I think of a lot of the Rangers, but they do have a very good power play, as you've mentioned. So Rangers power play on the blue line. Jacob Trouba 4,900 stood out immediately to me. Anybody else stand out to you?
Not really. I mean, Fox, obviously, if you're power play stacking, Trouba's the one-off guy. On the I don't think there's anything on the Coyote side that I really want to play. Even Mayo at 3K is too much for me. I think I'm just going to look elsewhere. It's just Trouba for me out of that game, I think. Let's get to this next game then. Oh, baby. Ottawa, 2.5 implied goal total going into Washington. The Caps have a 3.7 implied goal total. There's some interesting news here. Washington's going to be without a lot of defensemen. John Carlson's still out. Dmitry Orlov's still suspended. Nick Jensen tried morning skate this morning, but left after 5 minutes. He was injured in the last game, so it looks like he's out as well. Connor Sheary back. He'll be on the 3rd line with Lars Eller. That's 3 regular defensemen missing for Washington, including their best defenseman. And I know we talk about how good they are defensively, and they are. I wonder how much of that is not lost, considering you're missing Orlov, Carlson, and Jensen. I said, those are 3 regular defensemen out of the lineup. Do you have any interest in Ottawa here, Josh? What do you think about this game? The thing is, Ottawa sucks. Like there's like I don't know how else to describe it. Like the Tkachuk Norris Batherson line is going to be fairly popular, I'd imagine, and they're so reliant on their shooting percentage.
Their top stacks isn't coming in that high.
Yeah.
Coming in at 5% ownership. I don't think that's that bad.
Yeah, they're just so reliant on how good they've been shooting recently. Their numbers 5-on-5 are not good.
No.
It's hard for me to get behind a line 5-on-5 that has those numbers. It's like the same problem I have with the Capitals stacking them 5-on-5. They're just not good. You know what I mean? Like you play the Capitals because Ovechkin is left wide open on the power play all game. He has a ridiculous projection today, I might add. And he's not like 9,700. He's 8,500. It's just, look, everyone's going to roast me for this homerish take, but I don't mind going to like Fournette and Stützle just because they're cheap. They're a cheap 2-man. They've been good together. I really don't know how the Capitals are going to match up with, all these defensemen out and Sheary back. Like I would imagine Eller McMichael go out against Norris Tkachuk. I just don't know. So maybe some Fournette and Stützle, but not super interested in the Senators today. On the Capital side, it's a power play stack for me. Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Backstrom, or something like that. I think, because you see the ownership on the Capitals top line, I think, getting away from some of that top line and mixing in some of the power play guys on the second line is the way to go. Doing Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Backstrom, or Ovechkin, Backstrom, Wilson. I think, Schultz is still the guy on the power play. I think you can mix him in at 3,200 easily. So I think, mixing and matching on the power play is the way I always go with the Capitals, and I think that's the way to do it today. And I think, getting away from some of these, if you want to leave Kuznetsov off and go like Ovechkin, Backstrom, Wilson, Schultz, I think that's a way to get a bit different to get some lower ownership.
I want to touch on what you mentioned with Ottawa, with their numbers, the top line numbers real quick, because it is a good point. 40 since the start of December. So we're looking at 150 minutes together over the last 7 weeks or so. 46% of the shot attempts and 49% of the expected goals. They're underwater as a top line. The thing is that they're generating 2.8 expected goals and nearly 30 scoring chances per 60 minutes. That's the thing with this Ottawa top line is, they're not very good defensively, but yes, they can generate offensively. So that's why, I think I might get to some Ottawa here tonight, man, is they're coming in with good leverage. Like I said, half the Washington defense core is missing, and they do generate a lot of offense for as bad as they are defensively. So, 1 to 3, I don't think you have to play him. In my 20 max, I will probably have something like 15% Ottawa 1, I think, here tonight. But it's obviously Washington and Ovechkin. That is the story of this game, because Ottawa's penalty kill, it's fine, but it's not great. And a great penalty. And we mentioned on the last show how much Nicholas Backstrom means to that power play, and getting him back is a huge help too. Yeah.
4,600.
Yeah. It's a huge help too for that Washington power play. So some sort of Washington power play stack is fine. Just using Kuznetsov and Ovechkin with Justin Schultz on the blue line is fine. Just like a 2-man Schultz Ovechkin, I think, is just fine as well. So that's where I am. Some sort of Washington power play usage along with Ottawa 1. On the blue line, like I mentioned, Justin Schultz, I think, is the guy for Washington. Trevor Van Riemsdyk has been getting, Washington does that thing where Ovechkin plays both power play units, and Trevor Van Riemsdyk has been getting some secondary power play minutes. I think that's a decent pivot away from what should be a popular Schultz. What do you think here, Josh?
Yeah, I agree. I'm either Schultz or TVR. And then on the Ottawa side, shout out FanDuel for making scratched Michael Del Zotto 6,100 today. Insane. But I'm on the Zoob again at 2,700. I think he's a fine punt. Chabot is a very interesting play at 5,500. I think he's been doing a lot with his minutes recently, peripheral wise. Jacob Bernard Docker min price, I think, is fine as well.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Let's move this along. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our top stacks, our lineup builder, and a whole lot more. Of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right, let's get to this next game, and this is going to be one of the more important games on this slate. Montreal 2.2 implied goal total going into Colorado. The Avs have a 4.3 implied goal total. I haven't checked the odds lately, but I think this is another one of those minus 500 favorite games from Colorado. I wrote up Nathan MacKinnon in the Power Plays article this morning. I wanted to highlight the fact that there are a lot of super expensive options on this slate and that you're going to have to make some tough choices. I think MacKinnon, I don't play cash games. I think MacKinnon makes a lot of sense as a cash game center here tonight. That's why I wrote him up. What do you think about this game from a tournament perspective?
Like I talked about in the beginning, you're going to have to make a choice if you're making a limited amount of lineups. You either play Colorado or you don't. In MME, you just play them, and whatever percentage you get. Well, obviously, you just don't hit. Unless you're Jake, he just hits optimize, upload, and he prints. But like for the normal MME player, you're going to have to make a decision on your allotment on Colorado 1. In 1 to 3, you're honestly going to have to make a choice, especially one lineup. You either play him or you don't. And you have to be comfortable with, the secondary lineup because they're over 24K. So like the second line you're going to put with them is not going to be a top line. It may not even be a second line. You're going to have to pick some guys off a third line maybe. So you're going to have to be comfortable with it. But the thing is, like, they have a 4.3 total. They're the highest leverage spot on the night according to our top stacks tools. They're the number one top 2 stack in our top stacks tools. So, the stars are lining up. The problem is they've been really bad from a production standpoint the last few games, but maybe Caden Primo is the answer to those problems. I don't know what I'm going to do because there's so many good lines from 17 to 20,000 tonight that it's like as I talk about it, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, because in theory, this is the best spot of the night. Now, you showed us last night that the new Montreal top lines to Foley, Suzuki, Arturi, Lehkonen. My God, I wish this was a different game. You know what I mean? Yeah. Woo. You still think you can play them here tonight? Just because they're so cheap. They're like 11-2 to full stack. Lehkonen with line mates is kind of like the Fiala mythical creature with line mates type deal. I don't know if this is the spot. I'm saving it for another day. And I think I'm going to play Colorado 1 just because there's so much leverage on them. I'll find something that I like with them. I'm hoping maybe Suzuki Toffoli sees some time against Colorado 2. I wish they were seeing Colorado 2. I wish this game was in Montreal, because if they saw Colorado 2, I'd love the Montreal top line tonight. But for me, I think this is just about Colorado 1.
So we talk about Arturi Lehkonen. He's been Montreal's best winger this year, and honestly, it's not close. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that. I'm looking at evolvinghockey.com, which is one of the advanced stats websites that I like to peruse and visit. His expected goal differential impact is 3 times greater than the next closest Montreal forward this year. Now, you could say that's because Montreal has been absolutely awful all season long, and you would be right. But that also speaks to just how good Lehkonen has been this year. Like, and the thing that's changed this year for him is that he's been better offensively. That's always been the knock against him. He's always been a very, very good defensive winger. He's just never been able to bring it offensively, and he's starting to bring it a little bit this year. I kind of like that Montreal top line as one of those filler lines. Like I mentioned earlier, if you look at our top stacks, and they are free up on the site today, so anybody watching this can go and check it out. Go look at the leverage. Washington 2, minus 5.5%. Tampa Bay 2 in the negatives, New Jersey 2 in the negatives, San Jose 2 in the -5%, -6%, sorry, Nashville 2 -5%. It's because these are all the filler lines people are looking for to jam in with Washington, with Toronto, with Edmonton, with whatever. I mean, if you're playing 150, I think it makes sense to have a little bit of that Montreal top line. Like, you don't need a lot. You just need 3 or 4 lineups out of your 150 to get over the field. I'm probably going to have one in my 20 max. So Montreal 1, I love Colorado 1. I think that should go without saying. They're my favorite line on the whole night, or favorite line in this game, sorry. But Colorado 1, Montreal 1. I also like Colorado 2 here. It's just they're coming in a little bit over-owned. And I'm wondering where I would pair them. It's like, Nashville 1 or maybe Minnesota 1 or something like that. So the Colorado 2 numbers have gotten better of late, basically since the calendar turns to 2022. So I think either the top 2 lines are fine, but it's Colorado 1, Montreal 1 for me most out of this game. On the blue line, I mean, I guess it's Chris Weidman if you're playing Montreal to correlate, but I don't want to play Chris Weidman. I mean, Taves and Makar obviously makes sense for Colorado. Does anybody stick out here?
David Savard's price has come down to 3,100. He's been blocking a ton of shots. So something I like to do, I've talked about it in my one lineup. If I'm going like a standard 4-3-1 build and if I need a cheap goal and I'm using Primo, I like to have a shot blocking defenseman to pair with my goalie. So Savard in that sense would make some sense.
Yep. All right, let's move this along. Toronto, 3.1 implied goal total. Going into New York, the Islanders have a 2.4 implied goal total. This is one of those rescheduled games, I believe, that was supposed to be in Toronto. Now it's back in New York. I wonder, we mentioned earlier the passing of Clark Gillies. He was a New York Islanders legend. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of pregame ceremony for him. We'd never know how those delays or whatever are going to affect the teams. It's just something I want to mention. I wrote up Michael Bunting this morning in the Power Plays article. I think him and Matthews might make a good 2-man, but obviously there's somebody that joined the New York Islanders top line last night that deserves, I would say, at least 20 to 25 minutes of discussion here on the show. But unfortunately, we're going to have to limit it to like 30 seconds. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, I'm going to take my 4 minutes on this game to talk about Austin Cesarnik. No, like he's still min price. Like, I hope he sticks up there and gets a good run, because that's going to be an interesting line going forward. Like, the Leafs total feels low to me. The Islanders aren't a very good defensive team. They're on a back-to-back. The prices on Tavares Nylander have come down. I think they're in play for sure. You want to play Matthews, Bunting, Marner. Marner's price is kind of where it should be. I don't know what Marner should be priced. Like, when he's up in the high 7s, it makes no sense because he doesn't really shoot the puck too much, especially on the power play, even though he scored a power play goal. That might be been his first power play goal in a few seasons. But Bunting, with Matthews, they have really good numbers together. He's 3,800. Marner being priced down. That line is, what are they? They're 18.9, which is probably the lowest that iteration of that line has been all season.
Yeah.
And they're getting a good matchup. Like, the Islanders just are not a good team. Yeah. So, yeah. This is Toronto 1 game for me. I think I imagine their ownership's going to come up during the day, but this is one of my favorite spots. I think, their ownership's a little bit depressed because of that 3.1 total. I'd imagine that also comes up during the day. Like, this being a 5.5 total feels low. I think it should be a 6 despite the Islanders being bad. So, Toronto 1 for me. You want to go to Toronto 2, that's fine. But if the leverage is there on Toronto 1, I'd rather play Toronto 1. And, the Islanders top line, you have to at least consider going back to an MME just because they see the bottom 6 of the opposing team. And Cesarnik at mid price makes that, that line, 13.7. You can use them as a filler to get in some more expensive lines. They're coming in with almost no ownership right now. It is a small total at home, but they are going to get some good matchups, and I think you can go back.
Yeah, it's both top lines for me out of this game. They do use Barzal Lee often against the bottom 6. Not like there's great matchups all over the place on Toronto, but obviously I'd rather face the bottom 6 than the top 6. So it's that top line for me. Austin Czarnik, two things about him. One, he's a good defensive winger. And two, he's very proficient with shot assists. And shot assists are a stat that's tracked that it's just passes in the offensive zone that lead to shots. He's inside the 80th percentile of the league for his career. He can pass. He's a decent playmaker and he's good defensively. I think that line should be just fine. So Islanders 1. It's Toronto 1 that I really like out of this game, though. Like, you talk about ownership and how it might come up. We have the Rangers 1, Colorado 1, and Washington 1 are going to be 50% owned combined. Like, just those three lines. I could kind of see that Toronto top line being like 6, 7, 8% as a three-man unit. You know what I mean? Like, obviously Matthews will be like 16 or 17% or something like that, but I could see a three-man being single digits for sure. So Toronto 1, Islanders 1 for me. On the blue line, they had no Jake Muzzin in their last game, and they just refused to play anybody else but Brody and Riley. Like, those guys are going to play hefty minutes here tonight. Rasmus Sandin's going to get some PP too, but I mean, I guess other than Brody and Riley, there's really nothing for me on the Toronto side. Islanders side, I mean, I guess Pelech is a guy that I'm kind of always interested in. He's down to 2,800, shot block bonus and all that. Him and Mayfield, I have interest. What do you like?
Yeah, I agree. Top pair for the Islanders, both under 3K now, which is weird. The price went down after Mayfield had a big game yesterday. Price went down. So I think either of those guys are fine. And then I guess Noah Dobson if you want to correlate with Islanders 1, if you're doing that in MME, but that's about it.
All right. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you've played in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you'd like to speed up the process of getting access, email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up right away. You can also claim a free $10 of site credit by clicking the link in the video description below, and that can be used to enter any Yahoo contest, including tonight's NHL $2,000 Saturday Baller and our NFL $5,000 single entry Awesemo exclusive. That features a top prize of $1,000 and a free year of Awesemo plus Platinum. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. All right, we got about 15 minutes left. We got about 4 games to get through. No problem at all. Detroit, 2.2 implied goal total. They're going into Nashville. The Predators have a 3.3 implied goal total. I wrote up both the Nashville top line as a stack to use and Roman Josi as a defenseman. In fact, earlier in the show, we talked about the core 4 forwards that were on this slate, and our YouTube chat said, no. It's a core 5 tonight. It's the 4 forwards plus Roman Josi, and I can't really disagree with that. What do you like in this game, Josh?
Yeah, Nashville's price came way down. Okay. They are 16-4. 16-4. They're getting Detroit back-to-back on the road. Apparently, Nedeljkovic is going back-to-back after giving up 5 goals.
Yeah, they said it's not confirmed, but they said after the game it's probably going to be Ned because I think Grice is in COVID protocols and they don't want to throw in an AHL goalie because they're in the thick of a playoff race right now.
Thick of the playoff race and put Vladislav Nemestikov on the top line. Come on,
yeah,
Can I just take a minute to complain about Blashill?
You can do whatever you want, man.
2 minutes into the game yesterday, the Stars take a penalty. 2 minutes into the game, I don't think the top line has taken a shift yet. They take a penalty. Blashill sends out the second unit for 90 seconds on the power play. What are you doing? Anyway, back to Nashville. 16. What did I say? 16-4.
16-4, yeah.
With positive leverage against the Larkin line with Nemestikov against a back-to-back goalie on the road. Like, this is like, I don't want to sound like I just love Nashville every night, but I love Nashville every night. And this is a really, really good spot. They're cheaper. They're fully correlated. They're a very good line. The price drop lets you fit in Josi more comfortably. Like, this is a really good spot for Nashville on Josi. Don't even mind Nashville 2 tonight. Not so much Ryan Johansson, but he is under 4K, which is manageable. But Tolvin and Cunnin 2-man at 6,200 let you get in some spicy things into your lineup, and they've actually been good. Like, I've been a Cunnin hater. I've been on that train for a while, but he's been pretty good this season, so I don't mind going there. Just not much on the Detroit 2 side. We got the King Bacon Pie Detroit 2 bark last night, and they did work, but he doesn't seem too interested in Detroit tonight as he turns and walks away. So Nashville for me.
Oh, man, I was really waiting for that. I was kind of interested in Detroit 2 here tonight. Yeah, I was thinking about going back to the Detroit 2 well. The reason being, like we said, I think Tyler Bertuzzi really changes things on that line, and they're going to avoid the Nashville top line for the most part. It's just, and they do have 2 guys on the top power play unit. And Nashville's penalty kill, as we mentioned, not only falling off the table, but they're still taking a fair amount of penalties. So I think I might be going, like, at the very least, Detroit 2 is going to be in my consideration for a filler stack here tonight. Pius Suter, Robbie Fabry, Tyler Bertuzzi. They've had 65% shot share, I believe, in their small sample together, and they're going to be getting some secondary matchups from Nashville. I don't mind Detroit 2 as a filler here, but it is a Nashville 1 game for me. I completely agree with you. They're up to like 3.4 goals per 60 minutes, and that's over an entire season so far. Like, they've just really been blowing the doors off the opposition, and I was really worried about their ownership when I was going through this game last night because they are so reasonably priced. But with all those expensive spots, like, you can't play Nashville 1 and Edmonton power play. You can't play Nashville 1 and Washington power play. You can't play, you know what I mean? So yeah, I do like Nashville 1 here tonight. Also, maybe some Detroit 2. I'm going to have to think a little bit more on that. Looking in goal, a Ned on a back-to-back, like, I know we don't like playing goalies on back-to-back, but it's not as if every goalie loses every back-to-back. And I got to think Ned comes in with pretty low ownership here, and I think he's a good goalie regardless. Kind of like Ned here. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, you just got to get the bad taste out of your mouth from yesterday if you used them.
I mean, that third goal, like the shot from the below the circle where it, like, what kind of went under his arm and right to the back of the net, like, didn't even flutter off anything. Or oh my God. Or no, went under his pad. That's what it was. Yeah. Oh my God, that was awful. But anyway, that's the guy I might play tonight.
Yeah, but on the flip side, you got UC Saros at 8K, who's going to be probably the most popular goalie on the slate. So, Ned definitely makes some sense from you. You would expect Nashville to get some shots on him more than the Dallas Stars do, because Dallas Stars are just, I don't understand how they keep winning.
They don't take a ton of shots. Yeah. They just score a ton of goals.
Yeah. It's like the Stars for the past 3 seasons that they average like 19 shots a game, but score 6 goals a game. Like, they're the mythical creature of the NHL.
Yeah, they're doing their thing, that's for sure. All right, let's get to this next game. Chicago going into Minnesota. The Chicago Blackhawks have a 2.5 implied goal total. Minnesota Wild have a 3.5 implied goal total. Brian Hartman almost came through with the hat trick pick for me yesterday. Didn't do too bad with a couple goals. I noticed he's skating power play too. He's broken up from the top line. That's interesting here because that makes some very cheap Minnesota players incredibly valuable here tonight, because Matthew Boldy, Kalen Addison, both top power play unit, both very cheap. Chicago with a god-awful penalty kill. I think Joel Eriksson Ek is the center on the top power play unit. I think he can do some pretty interesting things here with the Minnesota lineup. There's a lot I like from Minnesota here. What do you like, Josh?
Yeah, now, this is a home and home, so now Minnesota's home. So you're going to see the checking line, Joel Eriksson Ek, Foligno, Greenway go out against Strome, Kane, Hagel, if that's the line. Chicago mixed up their lines. God knows what they're going to do. So whatever. But Joel Eriksson Ek's going to get out there against the top comp. He's 4,500. Top power play. I think he makes a really good one-off. You want to pair him with Foligno, I think that's fine. I think you can stack that top line. Going back to that top line, I think is fine. I think if the game was closer yesterday, you'd see that Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello get another goal, but they were just winning like 5-0. Yeah, they won 5-0 before the third period, something like that. So
it was 5-0 at like halfway through the second.
Yeah,
or something.
So they just kind of took their feet off the gas because they knew they're playing again. I think you can go back to them. Hartman being off that top power play does make it a little bit downgrade, and they're the most expensive line in the slate. besides Colorado won. So I think, going to the Boldy, Fiala, Gaudreau line, or even that checking line makes some sense. I don't even, I think going like Joe Eriksson Ek, Kale and Addison is a real interesting way to get different in this game. I just really like Eriksson Ek at the price because, he's going to get a little bit of a minutes bump getting those top comp matchups. So I think that's where I'm going to go on the Minnesota side. On the Hawks side, again, I can't full stack anything. Who knows what they're going to do with their lines? I just don't think I'm going to get to any Hawks.
Yeah, the two ways I would go about this game, it's either Minnesota 1 or Minnesota power play. It'd be Minnesota 1 because they are coming in with such good leverage. And, Hartman PP2 does kind of suck, but this is a great 5-on-5 line still. So that doesn't really bother me. And it's not like Hartman can't do anything on the second power play unit either. This is a very bad penalty kill they're going up against. So it would be the Minnesota top line or some sort of mix like Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Boldy, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Addison, something like that. To take advantage of that weak Chicago penalty kill. Also, Marc-Andre Fleury, if I'm not mistaken, played last night. I don't even know who the backup still is. Is it Lankinen?
Fleury got yanked yesterday, and then Lankinen came in. So
yeah, and Lankinen's probably going to start this game, I imagine, unless they go right back to Fleury. But it doesn't even really matter at this point. Minnesota 1, Minnesota power play. Chicago, I don't know if I can get on board with Chicago. If I could, it would be the Taves line, but they mixed up the Taves line last night because I suspect that Eriksson Ek will be matched up against Patrick Kane. And then that would leave Taves against, Taves and DeBrincat against some secondary, but I don't even know if that's going to be the line because Ryan Carpenter was moved up there. So we're not going to find out about that until maybe coach speak here in 3 or 4 hours. So for now, Minnesota 1, Minnesota power play. On the blue line, still love Kalen Addison for Minnesota. They've been nuking Matt Dumba's minutes, and I think correctly. So I'm not sure I'd even want to pay $5,100 for him. I think I just want to be super cheap here and do like Addison or Goligoski or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And then on the Hawks side, there just isn't anything there. I think they moved Seth Jones off the top power play at times yesterday too. So no thanks. Hawks, no thanks.
All right. We have an Awesemo Hall of Fame here at Awesemo.com where we like to celebrate all our winners. If you'd like to get in the Awesemo Hall of Fame, this is how you can do it. You download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You place in the top 3 of a contest with at least 5,000 contestants, and then you tweet those wins to the Awesemo Hoff account. You'll see Derek Granton took down 25K, second place in the 20 max NFL. You'll see 10K from Lockbriar playing some NFL Showdown. But then you'll see $600 from Hoops Data. You don't have to win tens of thousands of dollars to get into the Awesemo Hall of Fame. Just top 3 in a contest with at least 5,000 contestants, and then tweet those wins to the Awesemo Hoff account. You can even be like Baluganad, or you can even be like Bill Dozer, who took down the hip check for $400.
He's nuts.
Yeah, the other day. Just tweet those wins to the Awesemo Hoff account on Twitter. You can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. All right, we got 5 minutes left to get through these games. Coming up after us is the NFL betting show with McCarthy and Ben, and then your NFL first look, deeper dive, and live before lock, all coming up after that. That's 3.5 hours of NFL coming up after us. And then after that is your MMA live before lock and your NBA double dose of deeper dive and live before lock as well. NFL, MMA, NBA coming your way for hours and hours after we're done. All right, let's get to these final 2 games. Calgary, 3.1 implied goal total going into Edmonton. The Oilers have a 3.0 implied goal total. I'm going to be honest. I was looking at some of Edmonton's numbers. Their recent skid, it's all goalie related. It's all goalie related. Their 5-on-5 numbers actually aren't bad. Some of them are good. It's just I should say it's all goalie. It's their goalie and their penalty kill. And when your goalie's bad and your penalty kill is bad, it can make your team look real, real bad. It doesn't matter what else is going on. So for that reason, I wrote up Elias Lindholm in the Power Plays article. I like Calgary 1, the Calgary Power Play here tonight. What do you like, Josh?
I really like them. I understand what you're saying about it being goal related. It definitely is. But if you put Brandon Perlini and Kyler Yamamoto with Connor McDavid, for an extended period of time. Like, how hasn't McDavid asked for a trade yet?
Which they are again today, by the way. That was the line at morning skate this morning.
Yeah, and they're going to get the Calgary 1 matchup. Like, it's just a good matchup for Calgary. Like, at best, that line's going to be high event both ways. Now, I understand. I see the ownership on Calgary, and the second line is coming in more popular, and I get it because they're cheap, they're a filler, and they're going to get Draisaitl, Fogle, Puljujärvi. So, yeah, I get going to that second line, but this is about Calgary 1 for me, fully correlated on the power play. Edmonton's penalty kill has been bad. Their goalies have been awful. It kind of reminds me of Seattle. If you took McDavid off the Oilers right now, they're a worse team than Seattle.
I can see that.
Yeah,
you take either McDavid or Draisaitl, I would say.
Yeah. So this is a Calgary 1 game for me. You don't. I trashed Rasmus Andersson for not shooting the last time, and what did he do? First goal of the game, Rasmus Andersson on the power play. That was his first goal of the season. I guess you could put him in if you want, but I'm all about Calgary 1. On the Edmonton side, like, these lines are just brutal. So again, like, maybe McDavid, Yamamoto is fine, but like, again, it's just hard to pay $8,700 for McDavid when he has those line mates, when Ovechkin's cheaper, when Colorado won is in those matchups, when you have Matthews at $8,800 in a good matchup. So I think in MME it's Edmonton power play for me, but I'd much rather play those other lines than Edmonton tonight.
Yeah, I'm not going to fault anybody for playing Edmonton. It's just the Calgary top line that's drawing me here tonight. Number one, it's the leverage. They're one of our best leverage lines on the entire slate. Number two, it's that bad Edmonton penalty kill. You can fit in your Calgary. You can fit in Calgary with Toronto 1 or New Jersey, Carolina, Nashville, what have you, San Jose even. So there's lots of options for that Calgary top line in a good power play matchup. So Calgary 1 for me. On the Edmonton side, you have to go Edmonton power play or something like that. But I honestly think I'm fading Edmonton in this game. On the blue line, it's Darnell Nurse for me. They're starting to give him more power play minutes. Thank the Lord they're doing that. God, just get Tyson Barrie off this team. So Darnell Nurse, I like. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's about it. If you want to correlate overpriced Keith Yandel in your lineup, sure, go ahead. But not a big fan of Barrie. It's all about Nurse for me.
All right. Just want to give a special shout out before we get out of here to Yahoo Fantasy. Let's get to this last game. Tampa Bay 3.4 implied goal total going into San Jose. The Sharks have a 2.6 total. Tampa Bay lost last night. Andrei Vasilevsky got blown up last night. Anthony Cirelli was moved to the top line for 2 full periods last night, the second and the third period. So he could be playing with Point and Kucherov. I hope we get some confirmation about that. Because that can make a big difference for that game tonight. I like San Jose too in that game right now. What do you like, Josh?
Yeah, I do like San Jose too. Like, the price on Dahlin and Gregor are just too cheap. Like, they're 55. They're 10-2 to full stack, and they're going to get the Stamkos matchup, which is a good one. It's not Vasilevsky, it's Brian Elliott. So I do really like San Jose 2 as a filler. Not super thrilled about San Jose 1 with the price and Barabanov there. It's a tough matchup, especially if Cirelli's on that top line. Also, the price on on Tampa 1 is reasonable. So I think going back to Tampa 1 here, especially if Cirelli's there, makes some sense.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's the very last game of the slate. If we don't get any confirmation early, we're not going to get any confirmation until warm-up. So just keep an eye out for that. All right, that'll do it for us here today. Josh, I'm going to ask you for your hat trick picks and your goalies. My hat trick pick for today is Matty Duchene from Nashville, and my goalies are Antti Raanta, John Gillies, Alex Nedeljkovic. Who you got?
I like Jussi Saros. He just, he needs a shutout, I think. Goalie's just a mess.
It's bad today.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get behind, Igor is fine, but Igor, I don't know. He needs a shutout. Gillies makes some sense. Hat trick pick is gonna be Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny
Gaudreau from Josh, 1 hat trick pick. Matty Duchene for me, your other hat trick pick. That'll do it for us here today. I think we're back on Monday as the schedule really starts to ramp up. So we will be back on Monday afternoon. I believe it'll be Josh and Jake. But for producer Tyler, for Mr. Harris, for Michael Clifford, we're all here saying good luck tonight, everybody. We'll see you next week.